Don't be deceived by his worn-out hat. Beneath it lies the mind of a future businessman. Young Bernard, a black shoeshine boy, isn't just polishing shoes. He's absorbing knowledge. He deliberately sets up his stall in front of a bank, ensuring his customers are wealthy white men. But he isn't interested in the pennies he earns. He works slowly, listening intently to their financial discussions. Every tip, every secret he carefully records in a notebook the moment they leave. From a young age, he knows exactly what he wants: to become a banker. But this is Texas in 1939, where racism crushes black ambition. His father sadly tells him his dream is impossible. Yet, in Bernard's eyes, there is no doubt, only determination. 15 years later, Bernard moves to Los Angeles with his wife Eunice and their children. While discrimination still exists, it is less suffocating than in Texas. Determined to build a better future, he starts small, working as a real estate agent. His family squeezes into a cramped utility room at a relative's house, but Bernard reassures Eunice, "We won't be here for long." As he scours the city for opportunities, he makes a critical observation. Los Angeles's black neighborhoods are overcrowded, while white areas have countless vacant homes. Black families have the financial means to rent but nowhere to go. The market simply doesn't serve them. That's when Bernard spots an overlooked opportunity. A neglected, weed-covered apartment building owned by a white landlord stands right next to the black community. Others see decay. Bernard sees potential. This is where his journey begins. Bernard approaches the owner and makes a bold offer. "You've only rented out half the apartment. Why not sell it to me? I'll pay you $30,000 now and another $5,000 once I've rented out all the rooms." Though impressed by Bernard's proposal, the owner is hesitant to take such a risk. Bernard nods in understanding and prepares to leave. Just then, his eyes land on the owner's calendar. A gift from a local bank manager. An idea sparks. Wasting no time, Bernard heads straight to the bank. Upon arrival, the manager's secretary, biased against black people, refuses to let him through. Undeterred, Bernard patiently waits by the entrance for hours. The moment the manager steps outside, Bernard seizes the opportunity. He confidently stops him and says, "I know one of your VIP clients." Bernard explains confidently, "The business I'm building will benefit your client, and I hope you'll approve my loan." But the bank manager dismisses him without a second thought. That night, Bernard receives an unexpected phone call from the property owner. "Did you use my name to try to secure a loan?" the owner asks. Caught off guard, Bernard has no choice but to apologize. To his surprise, the owner doesn't scold him. Instead, he admires his persistence, his refusal to give up on his goal. Impressed by his determination, the owner offers to guarantee the loan himself. With the bank's approval, Bernard secures his first loan and purchases the property. Soon after, while overseeing renovations, an elderly white woman returns home from shopping. She stops abruptly, glaring at Bernard. "What are you doing here?" she demands in a sharp voice. Bernard remains calm. "I'm renovating the apartment building," he replies. Her face twists with disdain. "Workers like you should be careful," she sneers. Bernard replies calmly, "Don't worry, this is my building, and I'll take great care of it." The old woman is speechless. Her face tightens with anger as she storms inside. Moments later, the police arrive. One officer steps forward. "An elderly woman called us," he says. "She claims you're impersonating the owner and causing the trouble." Bernard remains composed. Without a word, he pulls out a copy of the real estate certificate. He had anticipated resistance and came prepared. The officers examine the document, realizing the property legally belongs to him. Frustrated, they have no choice but to leave. That night, as Bernard returns to his building, he finds the old woman waiting at the entrance. Her glare is sharp. "Get out!" she snaps. "This isn't the time for renovations." Still unfazed, Bernard meets her gaze. "I'm not a renovation worker," he says. "I'm the owner." Her mouth falls open in shock. A few days later, unwilling to live in a building owned by a black man, she packs her bags and moves out in anger. As soon as the old woman moves out, Bernard quickly rents her unit to a black tenant. As expected, the demand in the black rental market is massive. The building fills up in no time, and Bernard delivers the agreed follow-up payment to the former owner. Impressed by Bernard's sharp instincts, the former owner proposes a business partnership. Bernard selects the properties and calculates potential profits, while the former owner handles negotiations and signs contracts on their behalf. This way, white sellers remain unaware they are doing business with a black man and the two split the profits. Bernard eagerly agrees and their partnership thrives. The money pours in quickly, allowing Bernard to move from a small apartment to a luxurious mansion, giving his family the comfortable life they deserve. This is his wisdom. When faced with discrimination, he doesn't fight back with anger. Instead, he refuses to play by their rules and wins through strategy. His game is rational, strategic, and always aimed at maximum profit. But life is unpredictable and challenges arise when least expected. A few years into their thriving partnership, the former owner, now elderly and frail, passes away suddenly. His share of the business falls into the hands of his widow, a woman deeply prejudiced against black people. She has no interest in continuing their cooperation. Instead, she coldly offers to buy Bernard's shares for an insultingly low price. If he refuses, she threatens to take him to court. In that era, when a black man and a white woman stood before a judge, the verdict was almost certain. But Bernard refuses to accept such blatant injustice. Determined to fight back, he prepares for a legal battle. He needs a credible witness to prove his partnership with the late owner. His first thought is the bank manager, the man who once rejected his loan but knew of their business dealings. Yet, when Bernard reaches out, he discovers the manager has already aligned himself with the widow. Once again, Bernard is met with a closed door. Disappointment washes over him, but he is not ready to give up. He stands in the bank, quietly observing. The pristine floors, polished counters, and orderly lines mask the systemic discrimination embedded in every corner. Simply because of his skin color, he's often met with scorn the moment he steps inside. But instead of anger, an audacious plan begins to form in his mind. The building houses 4 banks, all of which have shut their doors to him. So he thinks, what if I own the building? Let's see who dares to discriminate against me then. Determined, Bernard approaches Joe, a fellow black real estate developer in Los Angeles, and shares his plan. At first, Joe dismisses it as madness. The land is outrageously expensive, and no black man has ever bought property in downtown LA. But as Bernard explains his reasoning, Joe realizes he isn't reckless. He's a calculated strategist. Owning the building would force the banks inside to serve him. They couldn't refuse his loan requests, and they'd have to share valuable real estate trends, giving him a powerful edge in the market. Joe, though wealthy, is still subject to white control. If he could turn the tables, owning white bankers on white land, his fortune would grow even more. But there's a problem. They can't negotiate directly with white sellers. They need a white intermediary. Bernard already has someone in mind. Matt, his trusted renovation worker. Matt is honest, ambitious, and eager to learn, though inexperienced. So Bernard and Joe take him under their wing, training him in golf, business etiquette, strategic thinking, and real estate. Soon he'll be their gateway to a groundbreaking deal. Matt rises to the challenge, mastering golf quickly. More than just a game, it becomes his tool for networking and business strategy. While playing at an elite club, he accidentally meets the owner of the bank building, an encounter carefully orchestrated by Joe. The conversation goes smoothly, and Matt secures the opportunity to buy the property. But negotiating the deal is another matter entirely. Bernard steps in to prepare him. He meticulously studies the building, counting the lights on at night to determine the vacancy rate, analyzing revenue versus operating costs, and calculating the property's true value. Every possible financial figure is handed to Matt, who memorizes them before the negotiation. When the owner tries to inflate the price, Matt counters with precise numbers, leaving the seller stunned. Even the accountant is speechless, believing they're dealing with a math genius. Ultimately, Bernard purchases the $2.4 million building for just $1.56 million. Now, every bank president in the building personally greets Bernard when he walks through the doors. The once dismissive manager who scorned him is left in shock. With banking support, Bernard and Joe's real estate empire flourishes. They shatter Los Angeles' rigid racial zoning, paving the way for black families to move into white neighborhoods. Their success even earns them recognition from the vice president. In 1963, Bernard takes his family back to Texas to visit his father, Britton. Over dinner, Britton expresses his pride in Bernard's accomplishments. The next day, Bernard strolls through town with his son and finds himself standing outside the bank where he once shined shoes. Texas, still deeply segregated, hasn't changed much. A young shoeshine boy catches Bernard's eye, but to his dismay, the boy only serves white customers. This moment stirs something deep within Bernard, a realization that his success comes with a responsibility to uplift others. Bernard quietly resolves to change the status quo and help his hometown's black community gain access to better housing. The next day, he meets with Joe and proposes an audacious plan, buying the mainland bank in Texas. Joe is stunned. The state's deep-seated racism makes such a move seem impossible, but Bernard presents a compelling case, proving the purchase would be both strategic and profitable. Eventually, Joe agrees. Once again, they recruit Matt as their frontman. Together, they negotiate with the bank's owner, Robert Florence Sr., and his skeptical son, Florence Jr. Despite Jr.'s suspicions, his father ultimately sells the bank to Matt and his partners. With control secured, Bernard immediately gets to work, ensuring black residents can access loans for housing and business opportunities. For a while, everything runs smoothly, until Florence Jr. starts digging into the bank's loan approvals. One day, he follows Matt and confronts Bernard and Joe. Waving a letter from the U.S. Treasury Department, he threatens them with an upcoming inspection in 1 month. After Florence Jr. leaves, the trio strategizes their next move. Matt suggests buying another bank, the Bank of Marlon Moore, to transfer the problem loans, shielding mainland from scrutiny. Bernard acknowledges the idea but raises a concern, managing the new bank's operations. Matt volunteers to oversee it, but Bernard hesitates. In the end, he agrees, on one condition. His wife, Eunice, will keep a close eye on Matt. In the end, Matt gets exactly what he wanted, the chance to run his own bank. The next day, he meets with a lawyer and hastily begins signing loan contracts at his signal. Sometime later, Matt receives a call from Florence Jr. informing him that clients are pulling their money out of mainland bank. To make matters worse, a federal bank examiner arrives at Marlin to investigate. Sensing trouble, Bernard disguises himself as a janitor to eavesdrop on the meeting. But it's no use. The examiner uncovers serious issues with multiple loans. Bernard is stunned. How could such reckless approvals have happened? They soon uncover the truth. It was Florence Jr.'s scheme all along. In his eagerness to run the bank, Matt had skipped protocols and unknowingly used a lawyer recommended by Florence. That gave Florence the chance to sneak in problematic loans, setting them up for failure. Realizing the situation is unsalvageable, Bernard and Joe tell Matt the only rational option is to walk away from the Bank of Marlin. But unwilling to let go, Matt makes a desperate move behind their backs. The next day, Joe rushes to Mainland Bank with Bernard, furious. They confront Matt about his actions, while Florence Jr. watches smugly from the sidelines. Bernard demands to see the financial records, but it's too late. The federal bank examiners arrive and revoke Mainland Bank's license. As they leave the building, the FBI arrests Bernard and Joe. Bernard tries to argue, but it's useless. The trap has been set. Later, in a tense meeting with their lawyer, Bernard and Joe learn that their case has been entangled in larger racial politics. Meanwhile, Matt secretly meets with Senator McClellan, who offers him a deal: testify against his partners in exchange for immunity. That night, Matt makes a phone call. The next day, following McClellan's advice, he testifies against Bernard and Joe at a Senate hearing. Later, Bernard meets McClellan himself. The senator offers him a grim choice: accept an immunity deal by confirming Matt's testimony, or speak freely and face prison. Bernard refuses to betray his principles. Instead, he delivers a powerful speech about racial discrimination in America, saying the words he has kept in his heart for years. The fallout is devastating. Bernard and Joe lose everything. After the hearing, both are sentenced to federal prison. Florence Jr. swoops in and buys Mainland Bank for a fraction of what Bernard and Joe originally paid. Meanwhile, Matt walks free, never charged with a crime. Years later, Bernard and Joe are finally released. Eunice is surprised to see them in good spirits despite losing their fortune. But Joe soon reveals a secret. Before the government could seize their assets, Bernard and Joe had secured properties next to each other in the Bahamas. Shocked, Eunice turns to Bernard. "How?" she asks. It turns out the person Matt called the night before his testimony was Bernard. In that moment of guilt, Matt confessed everything and apologized. Instead of resentment, Bernard gave him one final instruction: move their assets before the government could seize them. The story ends with a final revelation. The properties Bernard and Joe left behind played a crucial role in fighting housing segregation in Los Angeles. In the Bahamas, the two lifelong partners still own their neighboring mansions, a quiet victory in the face of everything they lost.